All right, thanks everyone. I'm Matt Ryan up at Cornell University. I'm going to tell you about the education team and the new course that we're developing. So I have a bunch of slides. I also have some connection problems, so I'm going to leave my video off. Hopefully everything works out smooth. But next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the team of educators. We have Andrea Beisch, Erin Haramoto, Dara Park, Karen Renner, Rich Smith, Kate Tully, and Sam Wortman. And next slide. So we are spread out all over the U.S. We don't have anybody on the West Coast, but we are in a bunch of different regions. And so in addition to the educators, we are fortunate to have Dean Boss, who is at Michigan State University. He is an extension educator, and so he's been really helpful keeping us on track. And one of the things that we recognized early on with this project is that we are coming at this with very different experiences and different cropping systems. So when students often learn about cover crops, they get the local perspective, things that are going on in the region that are brought into the classroom. And so we realize that there are a lot of different cropping systems. And next slide here. And so what we want to do with our different cropping systems, as you can see here, some slides from Cropscape showing some of the different states that we're working in: Nebraska, South Carolina, and Michigan. And so we really want to embrace these regional differences in cropping systems and in cover crop management practices, and bring these differences into the classroom and have the students who are involved in this multi-institution course learn about how cover crops are being used in these different regions and different cropping systems, and really try to understand and use the differences as a learning opportunity so that we can really empower these students to be successful ag professionals in the future. Next slide. So our current course title is Cover Crops in Agroecosystems, and our course objective is really to explore the management, environmental, economic, and social considerations of cover crops across a diversity of environments. Again, bringing out in our different regions as a strength to the course and as a central component. Next slide. So what you are looking at here, and apologies for all of the text, but these are our course objectives. And so I want to just spend some time on these because we thought about this quite a bit, and we feel like this is really the heart of what we're trying to do in our course. And so there will be a quiz on these objectives coming up in a couple of minutes, so pay attention, please. All right, so this one, we are going to have students by the end of the course, they should be able to define cover crop types and describe characteristics of cover crop species and functional groups and their agroecosystem services, okay? So they're going to know about cover crops and their characteristics. We want students to be able to manage and make decisions about cover crops across a diversity of climates, soils, and cropping systems. All right, management, again, a central theme here. Measure the short and long-term economic impacts of cover crop management decisions. Quantify the environmental benefits of cover crops using digital tools and describe how those benefits are influenced by management decisions across environments. Okay. Apply cover crop system knowledge to design policy and social initiatives to help overcome barriers to cover crop adoption. 6 is locate resources and find relevant information and integrate this information when making decisions. 7 is effectively communicate the opportunities and challenges of cover crops to a diversity of stakeholders, including researchers, farmers, and policymakers. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do. This is a really important part of our course development process, is getting these course objectives, really batting them around and making sure that we're comfortable with what we're delivering to the students. Next slide. So in developing the course, a lot of questions come up. Some things we already have figured out, other things we're still working on. At this point, again, with this multi-institution course, one of our goals is that students will be able to interact with one another. And so this is pretty unique in that we are going to have all of the students enrolled in the same course and meeting at the same time. And so At this point, we are considering the web platform Canvas that we're going to be able to use to connect all of these students and to manage the course. But there are still a number of things that we've been talking about. Some of this is we still need to work out some details, but things like how many credits will this course be worth? Will there be a lab, or can we do this for some students that who are not interested in participating in a lab? What level? Is this for first and second year students or juniors and seniors? The frequency of our virtual meetings. These are all things that we are actively talking about and thinking about during our monthly meetings. And of course, we're very interested in knowing how to really get the students to connect with one another. We want to know how can we get these students talking and really utilize the benefit of interacting with one another across these different state boundaries. Of course, we want to know how to engage with the larger PSA community. And so that's what we want to spend some time today thinking about and talking about. Next slide, please. So as educators, we thought it'd be a lot of fun to do a quick poll. So if we can bring up the poll, we have 3 questions. The first question, if you can just now, this is the part where we're going to be a little bit more interactive. We want to just get your sense, and we want to know what you think is the most important cover crop in the United States. And so please select one from this list here: cereal rye, crimson clover, radish, oats, hairy vetch. Please do this now. I realize that we're a little short on time and behind, and then we'll take a quick look at the results. Okay, so everybody should be able to submit. Okay. All right, so I think you should have had time. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. So for the poll operator, can you show those results quickly?
It's still coming in. We have 14 of 100 people. I think
14, okay.
They're trying to scroll through the options at the moment. So you guys can scroll up and down and submit. We are now at 23 people.
Yeah, I see a message from Mark Van Gessel that my submit button doesn't work.
All right, let me check the chats. You have to answer all 3 questions if you need the submit to work.
Okay. All right. So you can go down to the scroll down to the second question. Okay. I didn't realize it all would come up at the same time. Okay. The second question is, what 3 topics are most important for the course? And so this is going back to our learning objectives. So if you can see that we have species and variety selection, establishment and termination, mixtures and intercropping, effects on cash crops, soil health and nutrient management, weeds and other pests, environmental benefits, economics, grazing and harvesting, or policy. So that's for the question 2, and you want to select 3 of those. And then for the last one, this is what we're really trying to get at here is having all of you think about what you're doing in this project and whether or not you are working on something that you think should be integrated into this new course on cover crops. So do you have content to contribute, tools for students to use, or ideas about integrating your work into the course curriculum? So answer all 3 questions and hit submit. Thank you.
They're trickling in one at a time. We're now at 67 of 99, so we're doing pretty good. That's 68% of people are voting. Do we want to give it 1 more minute? And because I have to end polling to show the results. Do you have anything else to share with the team?
No, why don't we close it off there? I feel like we're a little short on time.
So I'm going to end polling, everybody. Thank you for submitting. And share the results. Does everybody see that? Again, you have to scroll up and down.
So we see that a lot of people, cereal rye is listed as at the top here of the most important cover crop in the United States with 74% of the votes. So that's very interesting to see. I personally am a big fan of hairy vetch, but that's okay. So in terms of the top 3 most important topics for the course, there's some pretty even splits here across these different categories. So certainly species and variety selection, effects on cash crops, soil health and nutrient management, I think is coming in at number 1. And that's very common and what we see in a lot of different surveys with cover crops, that people are really excited about soil health. So, so thanks for your answers to that second question there. In regard to that third question, we see that 46% of the people that were surveyed here do have some content to contribute or tools for students to use. So I feel like with this network, we really want to reach out to you and to get you involved in the course, or at least be aware of what you're doing, so that we can bring in the cool things that you're working on into the course and tell the students about it. So we'll be looking for ways to connect with you in the future. But let's move forward for the sake of time here. Next slide. So in terms of education products, a lot of what we've been talking about so far in terms of the different experiments, we have an understanding that there will be a paper that is published, and hopefully we'll be developing some tools and things like that, and really change farmer behavior. Well, for our team, what we're really trying to do is develop a new curriculum for cover crops. We want to help develop and promote and advance informed and empowered student agronomists and horticulturists and ag professionals. So we want to have an impact on the students that we're working with, and we are also thinking about publications. What you're looking at on the right here is a journal that's with the Tri-Societies Natural Sciences Education, and so there are outlets for publications about the course, about modules that we're developing, and activities. And so I think a number of us have thought about these things in the past, have collected survey data, but this is certainly one of our goals, is to get some publications out about the course and about some of the modules, so that we can share what we're doing and hopefully help other people that are interested in the course and in some of the modules and experiential learning activities that we're developing. Next slide. So some of us have experience with publishing these kinds of learning activities. This is a journal article from Rich Smith, Spider Plots, a tool for participatory extension learning. This was based on an activity for field days, but I feel like this is the same kind of thing that we can do with the education team in terms of getting some of our information out to journals and out to other educators, so that they can see. A key part of this is to collect really good survey data from our students to understand what they think of the activity, and how successful it was in terms of accomplishing our goal of educating them about a certain topic. So this is perhaps an area that we can work with the social science team to develop those surveys and to make sure that we're collecting good data here. Next slide. One of the early activities that we talked about when we were just getting started with our group was this competition that I've been doing up at Cornell, and this is where students come together and they grow a cover crop mixture. And I feel like this is a really nice opportunity for students to get some experience with growing cover crops. And what we do is that we grow a mixture outside in the crop garden and also inside. So we have two different environments with the same mixture planted inside and outside. And then we basically have a friendly competition to see who can grow the greatest biomass, who can grow the most biomass for the least cost, seed cost, and who can put together a mixture that has the greatest species evenness in terms of biomass at the end. And so this is a lot of fun. I've been doing this for a number of years, but this is an activity that we would like to do with our students and get them involved and have them compete with one another across universities. Andrea Bayish has already done this at the University of Nebraska, and so we're already seeing some adoption of this same kind of idea, and we're looking to expand on this. Next slide. So I mentioned that you can see students collecting it outside. This is the students collecting biomass indoors in the greenhouse. And again, this has just been a lot of fun, so seeing opportunities for that. In terms of when we're getting started, we conducted a survey of cover crop education. And so this was really focused on our proposal. And so we asked survey participants what digital tools and equipment should be integrated into a course on cover crops, thinking that we really want to be on board with utilizing technology and seeing where there are opportunities to bring technology into the classroom. one of the top responses here was tools for measuring ground cover. And you can see some of the other things. Decision support tools for management is high up there. Soil temperature, moisture, environmental impact models. All of these are, we see opportunities to bring them into the classroom and to work with students to get them up to speed with some of the things that are being developed in the project here. Next slide. So in terms of ground cover measurements, one activity that I've been working on with students at Cornell is using Canopeo to look at ground cover. And so this is an activity that I think that we can talk about in terms of bringing into our new course. This is where we were comparing different cover crop species and different seeding rates. And although we're not out in the field using Canopeo like maybe a farmer would do it, it allows the students to explore the concept of seeding rates and also get some experience with using an application, an app, to measure a digital tool to measure ground cover. And so I have a couple slides on this, but if you can go to the next one, that'd be great. So this is what the cover crops look like after 3 weeks. And again, using basically a smartphone. Next slide, to measure ground cover. This is some of the images. And again, this is basically on the floor of our head house. We don't need to be outside. We can relate these relative differences to our seeding rates. Next slide. And then we can take a look. And this is the part that I really like the best. When you're doing these experiments with students, you can have them learn techniques. You can have them collect data, but looking at the data with the students and interpreting the results, that I feel like is the fun part. And so in this example, when we had buckwheat, forage, radish, cereal, rye, and red clover, we can see what happens in terms of ground cover when we increase those rates in terms of both the ground cover and the seed costs. So just a fun activity, something that we're thinking about doing with students in a cover crop course. Next slide. Some of the other things that we've done at Cornell and that we can certainly consider as part of our multi-institution course is having students do some research and either put together a poster, perhaps for a virtual symposium, or develop a short film. And so here are some examples of short films that have been developed by students that are posted on eCommons, this digital repository at Cornell. And this is actually for a different class that I teach at Cornell, and where students have taken opportunity to put together something and create a short film about cover crops. But there are a lot of really cool, exciting opportunities to have students get involved. And so on next slide here. And so this is a slide that I want to spend some time with and just get you thinking about the most meaningful ways that we can engage with the larger team. So we've been talking about this and thinking about how this might work, but here are a few ideas. I really would love to hear from all of you. If you have ideas, please put it in the chat box or send a note to anyone on the education team. But we're thinking of different things such as inviting team leaders to give guest lectures about their work. That's of course very basic, but could be impactful. Working with the extension and social science teams to develop case studies. We have a lot of different regions represented, and it would be nice to do some case studies of collaborating farmers that are involved in the project. We can certainly invite project collaborators to work with students and help conduct research that would be integrated into like a poster or a video like I was just talking about. We can have students use decision support tools that are developed in this project for assignments. We would love to do that and to work with the data flow team and really connect with you and bring that into the classroom. That last one there is working with on-farm and data flows team to connect students with on-farm research via the portals and the farmer dashboards that we were looking at before. So next slide here. Here are just two quick examples. This is with Resham and Kate Tully, where Resham gave a guest lecture in Kate Tully's class where he introduced the students in the class to these on-farm dashboards. And so this is the kind of thing that we're thinking about. How can we bring this larger group into the classroom and really take advantage of all the cool things that are going on in the project and tell our students about them and bring them up to speed with some of the new technology that's being used. So this is an example. Next slide here with the on-farm network. And then with the farmer dashboards, you can really see on the next slide that water management and water levels that are being tracked in real time. So really exciting stuff. And again, taking a lead from Kate and Resham there is a way to connect with the larger group. But I only have one more slide here, just outlining our timeline, if you can advance. Right now, we have a virtual retreat planned in mid-July to develop the course modules. We're doing some module testing in the fall and in the spring, and then our course will be offered for the first time in the fall 2021 semester. So again, please let us know if you have any ideas or suggestions for us. We really want to be a good member of the community here and try to work with you if at all possible. So thank you very much.